Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're actually tackling a very specific kind of suffering.
That is one way to put it.
Well, I think a lot of people listening right now are going to recognize this instantly. We are diving into the E-myth.
Right. Which stands for the entrepreneurial myth. It is the core concept from Michael Gerber's classic book. And, honestly, I always say it is less of a business manual and more of a therapy session for small business owners.
It really is. It gets deep. So the core idea here, the myth itself, is this fatal assumption that people make.
Yeah.
They assume that just because you understand the technical work of a business, so say baking pies or writing code or fixing cars.
You automatically understand how to run a business that does that technical work.
Exactly. And it feels so logical, right? If you are the best barber in town, the obvious next step is to open your own barbershop.
Sure. Or if you are a great mechanic, you open a garage. But the book argues that this specific line of thinking is a massive trap. It is literally the reason why so many small businesses just crash and burn.
And to illustrate this tragedy, the author introduces us to a character named Sarah. And I want to spend a minute on Sarah because her story is, well, it's heartbreakingly common. She owns a shop called All About Pies.
She does, and her backstory is crucial here. Sarah did not start a business to get rich.
Right.
She started it because she just loved baking. Her aunt taught her. The kitchen was her happy place. It was her escape from the world.
So everyone told her, you make the best pies, you should open a shop.
Exactly. So she does. She takes her savings. She signs a lease. And 3 years later, when we actually meet her in the book, what is her life like?
It is a total nightmare. She hates pies. She literally cannot stand the smell or the sight of them anymore.
There is this incredibly visceral scene. It is 7 in the morning. She is totally exhausted. She's been up since 3. And she just leans against the wall and actually kicks the oven.
Yeah, she kicks this huge black convection oven and just shouts, "Damn!"
That is the moment. That right there is what the author calls the technician's nightmare. Because she didn't buy her freedom, did she?
No. She just bought herself a job. And the absolute worst part is she is working for a complete lunatic.
Herself.
Exactly. When you are the boss and the employee and you don't actually know how to run a business, the boss becomes this tyrant who demands 14-hour days. And the employee just becomes incredibly resentful.
Sarah is doing everything. Baking, cleaning the floors, doing the books, working the register. She is trapped inside the exact thing she used to love.
So the mission of this deep dive today is to figure out how to get Sarah, and honestly, anyone listening who feels exactly like Sarah right now, away from that oven.
We need to understand why this happens, and it starts with what is basically a case of multiple personality disorder.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Because the claim is that every business owner is actually 3 different people fighting for control.
Right, fighting for control of one body. You have the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur.
Okay, let's unpack these. Because I think most people just assume, well, I started a business, so I am the entrepreneur.
And that is the very first mistake. Let's look at the technician first. This is the doer. The technician lives entirely in the present tense.
They just want to do the work.
Exactly. They love the feel of things. Their underlying motto is, if you want it done right, do it yourself. To the technician, thinking is a waste of time. Only working is actually working. They think the whole system is dehumanizing.
I feel personally attacked by that one.
Look, we all have a technician inside us, but then you have the manager. The manager is completely different. They live in the past.
They are the planners.
Right. They crave order, consistency, structure.
Yeah.
They are the ones running around with a broom trying to organize the massive mess that the entrepreneur creates.
Which brings us to the entrepreneur.
The entrepreneur lives in the future. They are the visionary, the dreamer. They crave control and change. To the entrepreneur, the business is not a job to go to.
It is a product.
Exactly. It is a distinct entity sitting out there in the world that needs to be designed and built.
But the core problem here is that in a typical small business, these 3 personalities are not sitting at a round table having a polite discussion.
No, not at all. In most small businesses, the technician is in charge about 70% of the time. The technician basically hijacks the business just to give themselves a place to go do the work they like.
And the entrepreneur.
The visionary shows up for maybe 5 minutes at the start, gets super excited about the new logo or the storefront, and then the technician locks them in a closet so they can get back to baking pies.
There is this fantastic analogy in the source material about the fat guy versus the skinny guy. And it perfectly explains this internal war.
It is such a great way to look at internal conflict. So imagine you decide to go on a diet. That decision is made by the skinny guy personality.
The one with the grand vision of looking great on the beach?
Right. That is the entrepreneur. But come Tuesday night, who actually has to do the heavy lifting? Who has to eat the dry salad and go for a run in the rain?
Fat guy.
Exactly, the technician. And eventually the fat guy just gets tired of the skinny guy's grand vision. He feels totally oppressed by it, so he rebels, he eats a whole pizza, and the diet just crashes.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
In business, the technician gets tired of the entrepreneur's big, crazy ideas because it just translates to more late nights for the technician.
So the business crashes, or at best, it just stalls out completely. And this leads to what the book calls the stages of a business.
Right, the life cycle. It starts in infancy.
Infancy is the master juggler phase. You do everything. You are the baker, the accountant, the janitor, but inevitably you drop a ball. You realize you physically cannot bake all the pies and also file the taxes on time.
So you move into the next phase, adolescence.
Yeah.
You hire some help.
And this is where things usually fall apart. Let's go back to Sarah. She is totally drowning in paperwork, so she hires a bookkeeper. Let's call him Harry.
Okay, so Harry comes in. That should be a massive relief, right? She is finally delegating.
But is she? This is a really critical distinction the author makes. Most small business owners in this phase do not delegate. They abdicate.
Abdicate. What is the difference in this context?
Delegation means you assign a task, but you have clear standards, a system for exactly how it is done, and a method for checking the results.
Abdication.
Abdication is Sarah throwing a giant shoebox full of crumpled receipts at Harry and saying, "Thank God you were here. I never want to look at a number ever again."
She is just dumping the problem on him.
Totally dumping it. She has no idea how Harry is actually doing the job. She doesn't understand the books herself anymore. And when Harry inevitably leaves, or worse, when Harry messes up and the IRS comes knocking, Sarah gets burned.
She takes the business back.
Yes. But now she is bitter. She thinks, nobody cares as much as I do. If I want it done right, I have to do it all myself.
Which sends her right back to infancy, working those 14-hour days.
Or she hits the comfort zone. That is the point where the business grows beyond her ability to control it personally, so she just shrinks it back to a size she can manage. She stays small, works incredibly hard, and eventually just fades away.
Okay, that is super bleak.
Yeah.
We have officially diagnosed the disease. The technician is running the show, and the other two personalities are tied up in the basement. So how do we actually break this cycle?
The cure is what the book calls the turnkey revolution.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
It means you have to stop building a business based on your own personal skills and start building a business based on a system. You have to look at your business as if it were a prototype for a massive franchise.
Wait, even if I have absolutely zero intention of ever franchising, like what if I just want one really good local pie shop?
Especially then. Because thinking like a franchise forces you to separate yourself from the technical work. You have to build the franchise prototype, and the absolute patron saint of this mindset is Ray Kroc.
The guy who built McDonald's. Now, people have a lot of different opinions about McDonald's food, but you really cannot deny the brilliance of the business model.
Exactly. And here is the key distinction. Ray Kroc did not love hamburgers. Not the way Sarah loved pies.
Sarah's aunt loved the craft of baking.
Right. Ray Kroc loved the system of making hamburgers.
He loved the process that allowed a burger to taste the exact same in Peoria as it did in San Francisco.
Precisely. To Ray Kroc, the hamburger wasn't the product at all. The business itself was the product. The predictable, replicable system was the thing he was actually building and selling.
So for you, the listener, this means taking a step back and asking a really hard question. Can my business work without me?
And to ensure that it can, there are 6 rules for building this franchise prototype. I want to zero in on a couple of them because they are actually pretty controversial.
They really challenge the technician's ego. Specifically, rule number 2, which says the model will be operated by people with the lowest possible level of skill.
Yes, the lowest possible level of skill.
Now, hold on. If I am running a high-end consulting firm, or even just a really great bakery, that sounds terrible. I don't want low-skilled people. I want experts. Why would anyone build a business that way?
Because if your business depends on a genius to run it, you can't replicate it. You are held hostage by that genius. And if you happen to be the genius, well, you are held hostage by yourself.
So it is really about leverage.
It is about building a system that is so incredibly smart that you don't need extraordinary people to run it. Think about it. If you have to hire a master chef to bake your pies, they want a ton of money. They want to do things their own way. And if they quit, you are instantly out of business.
But if you have a system,
Right. A precise recipe, exact timing, specific tools, then you can hire someone ordinary who just wants to learn and they can produce an extraordinary result.
it democratizes the ability to produce high quality. I see that. It safeguards the business. So how do we actually get there? The book outlines a 7-step business development program.
The roadmap to getting Sarah out of the kitchen.
And it starts somewhere really surprising. Step 1 is not about making a business plan or securing funding. Step 1 is the primary aim.
Right. It starts with your personal life. It asks, what do you actually want your life to look like? Because the business is just a vehicle for your life. It is not your life itself.
There is a visualization exercise here that is a little morbid, but very effective.
The funeral visualization. Yes. He asks you to imagine your own funeral. What do you want the eulogy to say?
Do you want them to say, Sarah made really great pies and worked 18 hours a day until she dropped dead?
Probably not. But if you don't know what you want your life to be, you can't build a business that serves that life. You will just end up building a really customized page.
So once Sarah figures out she wants freedom
Mm.
and maybe, a house by the lake, she moves to step 2, the strategic objective.
These are the metrics, the finish line. So she might say, I need to sell this business for $1 million in exactly 7 years to buy that lake house.
It grounds the dream in reality. But step 3 is where the rubber really meets the road. And I think this is where most startups completely fail.
Yeah.
Step 3 is organizational strategy.
And this is where we get the story of the widget makers, Jack and Murray.
Oh, this story is a classic. So Jack and Murray are brothers. They start a business together. And like almost every set of partners ever, they decide to just take turns doing everything.
Yeah, I'll open on Monday, you open Tuesday, I'll handle the books this month, you take them next month.
It sounds so fair. Very democratic.
It is complete chaos because absolutely nobody is accountable for anything. If the marketing totally fails, whose fault is it? Who knows? It is just an us problem.
So how do you fix that? Because in the very beginning, it really is just you or
Yeah.
just you and a partner.
You have to create an organization chart first before you hire a single employee. You literally draw the boxes. President, VP of Marketing, VP of Operations, VP of Finance.
And then, and I love this trick, if you are a solopreneur, you write your own name in every single box.
You write Sarah in all of them.
That feels a little silly though, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I am the president and I am also the janitor.
It feels ridiculous, but it completely changes your mindset. When Sarah is mopping the floor at closing time, she needs to realize she is not acting as the president of All About Pies. She is fulfilling the duties of the janitor.
Right.
And the president's job is to create a manual so that eventually she can hire someone else to be the janitor.
So the ultimate goal is to literally fire yourself, box by box.
Exactly. You fire yourself from the bottom up. You say, okay, I have written the manual for baking. I can now hire a baker. I wrote the manual for bookkeeping. I can hire a CFO. You are building the system to replace yourself.
Which leads perfectly into step 4, management strategy.
Yeah.
And based on what we just talked about, this is not about going out and hiring a great manager who sweeps in and saves the day.
No, in the E-Myth framework, a great manager is not a person with a super forceful, charismatic personality. A great manager is just a person who follows the system.
There is a story here about checking into a hotel called Venetia.
The mint on the pillow story. It is so much more than the mint, though. The author arrives at this hotel, and the experience is just flawless. There's a fire crackling in the fireplace. The quilt is turned down. There is a little mint and a personalized handwritten card from someone named Kathy.
And he immediately thinks, wow, this Kathy person is incredible. She is so thoughtful.
He assumes it is all her personality shining through. But when he talks to the general manager the next day, he finds out the hotel actually does not hire extraordinary people. They hire totally regular people.
But they have an extraordinary checklist.
Exactly. Step 1, turn down quilt at exactly 8 p.m. Step 2, light the fire. Step 3, place the mint and the card.
So the system itself provided the thoughtfulness.
Yes, the system manages the process. The human manager's only job is to just make sure the checklist was followed. This totally removes the need for constant nagging and personality conflicts.
You aren't yelling at Kathy for being lazy.
Right. You are just verifying if the box was ticked.
Okay, that brings us to step 5, people strategy. Because even with the best checklists in the world, you still have to deal with humans. And humans can be, well, difficult.
They can be. But the argument here is that people do not just want a paycheck. They want a game worth playing.
A game worth playing.
Yes. If Sarah just walks in and says, bake these pies because I pay you to, that is a really boring game. But if she says, we are on a mission to build the world's most consistent, welcoming pie shop, and here's exactly how your role makes that happen, now that is a game.
So you have to sell the idea of the business to your employees, just like you sell the physical product to your customers.
Precisely. You give them community and structure.
Speaking of selling, step 6 is marketing strategy. And this is another huge area where technicians get it all wrong. Because technicians think the product just sells itself. They think, my pies are delicious, so obviously people will buy them.
And that assumption is deadly. You have to understand the concept of the irrational decision maker. You have to understand why people buy, not just who is buying.
There is a story to illustrate this that I found absolutely fascinating. The Blue Blouse story.
Oh, this perfectly captures consumer psychology. So, a woman is out shopping. She tries on 3 different blouses. A blue one, a red one, and a yellow one.
Okay.
She looks fantastic in the blue one. She really likes the color of the red one. And the yellow one is super fashionable right now.
So she has 3 really solid options.
Right. But she is standing there at the mirror, totally paralyzed. She cannot decide between the 3. The anxiety of making the wrong choice is just too high.
So what does she do?
She buys the gray one.
The one she didn't even want.
Which she actually hates. But why did she buy it? Because the gray blouse was the safe choice. It ended the suffering of having to make a complex decision. Logic completely failed her.
Wow. So what is the takeaway there for Sarah and her pie shop?
The lesson is that marketing is not just about showing off your product. It is about scientifically guiding the customer through their own emotional decision-making process. You have to remove their anxiety.
So instead of handing them a menu with 50 different pies and making them guess, you maybe say, our absolute best seller is the apple. You give them a clear path.
Exactly. The book gives a great example of a store that just changed their standard greeting. Instead of saying, may I help you? Which almost always triggers the defensive response of, just looking.
Right. We all say that.
They changed it to, hi, have you been in here before?
Which forces a simple yes or no answer.
Right. And depending on the answer, it opens a very specific script. If they say no, the employee says, oh, let me show you our layout. If they say yes, the employee says, welcome back, let me show you our new special.
That is brilliant.
That one tiny change in the system increased their sales by 16%. That is marketing as a predictable science, rather than just hoping for an artistic connection.
Which brings us perfectly to the final piece, step 7, systems strategy. This is basically the glue that holds all the other steps together.
And it breaks down into 3 distinct types. First, you have heart systems. These are the physical, inanimate things. The color of the walls, the layout of the kitchen floor plan.
Like Sarah painting her walls, a very specific warm color, just to subconsciously make people feel hungry.
Exactly. Then you have soft systems. These are the ideas and the scripts. The author uses the Walter Mitty sales script as an example. You do not let your salespeople just improvise on the floor. You give them a proven script that actually works.
See, again, that feels a bit robotic to some people. A lot of folks hear that and say, I don't want to just read a script all day.
But think about it. Does a play feel robotic when a master actor performs it?
No, of course not.
Exactly. The script actually gives you the freedom to perform. It guarantees the customer gets the exact right message every single time without the employee having to invent it from scratch.
And what is the third type of system?
Information systems. This is the data tracking. How many pies did we actually sell today? How many people walked through the front door versus how many actually bought something?
The conversion rate.
Yes. You need that data to know if your hard and soft systems are actually working. Without the data, you are just flying completely blind.
So we have the diagnosis, the technician's mindset, we have the cure, which is the franchise prototype, and we have the roadmap with the 7 steps. But I want to close by going back to Sarah, because she doesn't just build a manual and live happily ever after. There is a much deeper transformation that happens.
There really is. Sarah realizes that her business is not just about baking pies anymore. It becomes a dojo for her.
A dojo, I love that.
It is a place where she actually learns to master herself. She reconnects with what she calls her wild horse.
That childhood spirit, the part of her that was totally free and joyful before the business ground her down.
Yes. But she has this huge realization. A wild horse needs a pasture. If it doesn't have a fence, it will just run off a cliff or get totally lost. The structure of the business, the systems, the rules, the organization chart, That structure is the pasture.
That is such a beautiful reframe. The systems are not there to kill your creativity. They are there to create a safe, stable space for your creativity to actually survive.
Exactly. The business becomes the bridge between the chaotic world out there and the world in here.
There's a story the author tells right at the very end of the book about a guy in Silicon Valley.
The curtain story.
Yeah.
Yeah, this man tells the author, I finally realized that no one actually knows what is going on. Everyone is just guessing.
Right.
And he realized his real job as an entrepreneur wasn't just to make tech products. It was to keep the curtain up, to stay awake, to stay intensely aware that he is actively designing a world for his employees and his customers.
It is really about mindfulness, isn't it?
It is. Ultimately, The E-Myth is a book about being awake in your own life rather than just sleepwalking through the daily technical work.
So what is the final takeaway for you, the listener? Whether you are running a local pie shop, a massive tech startup, or maybe you are just a solo freelancer.
It means you have a fundamental choice to make. You can have a job or you can have a business. If you actually want a business, you have to fire yourself as the technician. You have to step back. You have to literally pretend that you are going to replicate your operation 5,000 times over.
Even if you just want to stay small.
Even then,
Yeah.
because that is the only proven way to get your actual life back. Freedom is not just the ability to say yes or no to a difficult client. Freedom is the capacity to mold your life and your business into something that works for you instead of you constantly working for it.
You have to work on the business, not just in it.
That is the ultimate mantra.
Well, I am definitely going to be thinking about the fat guy versus the skinny guy all week, and I am absolutely looking at my own to-do list a little differently today.
Just don't kick the oven.
I will do my absolute best. Thank you for walking us through this. And to you listening, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We talked about how systems give you a pasture for your wild horse. But think about how creating absolute rigidity in your business systems might actually be the only way to experience absolute freedom in your personal life. Could it be that true, lasting spontaneity only exists inside a well-built cage? Take a look at your week. How much time are you spending as the technician? And how much as the entrepreneur? The answer might just save your sanity. We will see you on the next deep dive.